Welcome to the Fearlessly Authentic Sash and Soul podcast, the show that goes beyond the stage, prioritizing a healthy mindset, overall well-being, and triumphs in the pageant journey. In each episode, we dive into the transformative power of embracing authenticity fearlessly.
From mindset mastery and self-care strategies to success stories that inspire, this podcast is your go-to guide for navigating the pageant world with confidence and resilience. Join us as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and celebrate the stories of those who fearlessly embraced their authenticity on the path to pageant success. I'm Lila Sherry.
And I'm Raeanna Johnson. Welcome to Sash and Soul. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Hi, Lila.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. We always say hi to each other as if we haven't hung out for hours before this. No,
Wow. Way to just kill the illusion. My gosh.
being authentic, being real.
Speaking of being authentic, Lila, we were just talking about trolls on social media posts. Can you just talk about what just happened briefly in,
Miss Wisconsin land?
in Miss Wisconsin land for all of our friends that are listening that can relate?
I get a lot of Facebook love, and I say love as in ironically because Facebook is a really mean place. And anyways, I've gotten this throughout.
I'm laughing. Facebook is a really mean place.
Okay,
How do you really feel?
So my biggest gripe with Facebook this year has been the fact that I will post like one big post with multiple pictures, and then you tag everybody in the main post and like their pages or whatever in the caption. And what Facebook will do is they will show one specific photo from that post just like on a feed somewhere without the caption, and it'll just like showcase that one photo. Anyways, people get really mad at me for that. And I get so many comments through my Miss Wisconsin page that will be like, Lila, how come you think we know who this person is? Why would you not give us the convenience of a caption? How could you do this to us? How could you be so terrible and not have a caption for this photo? And I'm like, okay, I get it. I also didn't grow up in the generation of Facebook, so maybe I don't know like how it was used first with people, and like maybe this whole like captioning individual photos is a thing, or I know it is a thing. I'm sorry, I don't have the time or the energy to caption every single photo. I cannot tell you how much I wish I didn't spend on social media. And so to tell me that I need to go the extra step to caption every single photo that I post, I'm just not going to do it. And honestly, like every one of those photos, you can hit view post and see the whole post as it is originally. So every time I get one of those comments, I get triggered, so triggered out of my mind. And all I want to do is be a troll right back. I'm not going to, and I never have. But I have blocked people that will literally not leave me alone because I don't caption every single one of my photos. It drives me nuts.
You
It
have
drives
to.
me nuts.
I get it. And also, I'm laughing because I really love when you give your posts, like the comments, a personality, as if that's exactly what that person sounds like while they're speaking. It's my favorite part of hearing about the trolls that you're dealing with. But I commend you. You're doing more than most people do on social media, myself included. And people are going to be people, and it is what it is.
And I do, there were, this is my personality coming through, is that there were times where I've been like, well, I mean, I could just caption or I could just tag them in the individual photos instead. But because I've gotten these comments from people, now I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. If it annoys you so much and you're commenting on my page, like, okay, now I'm just out of spite, not gonna do all of these things. So that's where I'm at right now. That's a little bit of me behind the scenes, this what I do, what I think. Anyways, now I'm not gonna caption my photos. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'll believe that when I see it. Okay, speaking of people on Facebook and social media, there are many of you that we absolutely love and adore, and you have reached out with your questions. And so, this episode, we want to answer your questions. So, thank you
Yeah.
so much for those of you that are not trolls and that give us the love and, follow us because you're interested. Unfollow us if you're not. We're not offended. We get it. Just don't troll us. But those of you that are nice and wanted to know more, we are going to answer your questions today.
Yeah, this should be fun. This should be quick. Some of it could be pretty rapid fire, but the first one that I wanted to start with, this this was from Miss, oh, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong and I might just cut this out. Miss Huron, South Dakota.
Miss Huron? Yeah, probably Huron.
Miss Huron, South Dakota. She asked, "Why did you start competing?" Ray, let's start with you.
I started competing because I saw a peer of mine, well, a little bit older, actually. She was in my older brother's class, but we grew up dancing together at the same dance studio. Her name is Christina Smaby Show. She became Miss Wisconsin later on, but she competed for our hometown local pageant in the Miss America system. And I watched her compete. And the first time she was first runner up, I was so inspired. Loved the idea of performing and being part of, the glitz and the glam of it all. And then the next year I watched her compete again and she had won. But that year that she had won was also the year that my older brother died by suicide. And we found out later that he had methamphetamine in his system at the time of his death. And so the Miss America organization back then gave me the opportunity to develop a platform and to speak about my brother and what my family had went through and just use it as an opportunity to try and create positive change. So that's really how I started, was just like multiple things. And then I stayed in for scholarship, for personal growth, for opportunity, for the friendships, for the glitz and glam of it all, for the fun of it. And because it truly, like, I evolved as a human being during my time competing and being part of the organization. And yeah, so I guess that's how I got started. But I didn't grow up doing pageants. I always got questions like, "Oh, were you like the toddler and tiara type thing?" Nope, I wasn't. I grew up dancing at, ballet, tap, and jazz, but not doing pageants until I was 17, and then it was really just for me. How about you?
Mine is very different. I think, like 10 or 11 years old, and we had gotten a letter in the mail from an organization called National American Miss. And it was very beginner level when it comes to interview. You get like a 30-second personal intro on stage and then your formal wear walk. And it's great. It's a great place to start. Anybody that is under the age of 14 who wants to start in competitions like this, I always point them to National American Miss because you just get the basic skills. And they are also very adamant on like age appropriate things. So when you say toddlers and tiaras, they're adamant about if you're under the age of 12, we don't want to see any makeup on you, right? Like none of that, age appropriate dresses, everything. So I had a few years there. I pretty much went through that program as lovingly as I could. Like I spent a lot of my very transformative preteen years throughout that community, and I met a lot of really awesome people, and a lot of my base foundational skills are through that organization. So I give a lot of props to them. They're longstanding and they do a good job with building confidence in young girls especially. That's where I started. I actually, my mom was like, "Isn't this a scam? Like, doesn't this letter look kind of scammy?" And my dad, actually, of all people, was the one to be like, "No, I think she could actually really benefit from this. Like, the public speaking, the interview skills, the just being around people and having to conduct yourself as a young woman with in a room full of people that you don't know, like that's important to learn." And I really wasn't getting that anywhere else. I was so shy to the point where my parents thought like, how is she ever going to go to college? she can't order at a restaurant without, having so much anxiety. And so it was them really pushing me to just really be less shy. That was the first goal of all of it. And then very quickly I moved my way into a few other systems, decided what I liked and what I didn't like, and ended up at Miss America. And I always knew, oh my gosh, that I wanted to go to Miss America. That was the dream. Even while I was competing at National American Miss, I was watching Miss America, and I knew that I wanted to do myself justice when I started competing for Miss Wisconsin in the Miss America organization. So that's kind of how that whole 10, 11-year journey worked out. But I started competing through a letter in the mail, and I just didn't want to be shy. Like, that's as simple as it was. And I fell in love with a lot of different aspects.
Okay, next question is.
This one is from Zoe DeBoer, former Miss Lacrosse Oktoberfest. I love this question. How do you deal with people who say pageants are old school?
Well, you are in the thick of it right now as a title holder, so I'll let you take that one.
My answer will always be very quickly look at the women within the organization. We can talk about institutions all we want. We can talk about the history all we want. Yeah, absolutely. Pageants started as a swimsuit competition, and that's really outdated. I get it. But look at the women within these organizations and what they're doing. And to me, I've met so many influential women who are grassroots, the first people to do XYZ, the only person in the state who's done this or that, or who's been recognized for this. Like, the women in the organization are not old school. And to me, why, like, we can't say, yeah, pageants as an institution could be, but there's also been a lot of changes that have happened throughout the years. And ultimately, the women make up the organization. None of these pageant organizations would be here or be standing without women competing, right? So look at the women in the organization, what they're doing, and what they're doing with the platform that pageantry can create. Um, that's my response is you can't really call every single woman that you see competing, what they stand for, what they do, the glass ceilings that they shatter every day, and say that that's old school. And there's been a lot of change that has come from pageantry at national levels being inclusive, being making statements, changes that have happened that have gotten public attention. That ultimately creates this ripple effect of we organizations can change and institutions can change depending on who's within it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think I will add that I 100% agree with you that those that are competing, the title holders within pageant systems are not old school. They are trying to break the mold in so many ways. But there are old school ideologies within the organizations because of the people that are still involved, that have been involved for decades. And that's just kind of how any industry works is we've got
Mhm.
people from different backgrounds and perspectives, again, ideologies. So if there is old school components to any kind of pageant system, oftentimes that's coming from people that just have a more old school perspective. So, but it takes all kinds. And I think that's the beauty of really anything in this world.
Yeah, I think pageants get a lot of bad rep for being old school because of historically what it's meant for women. I get it. There's a lot of institutions and a lot of things that I could go into one day in this world that are old school and that uphold old school values. So let's not decide that pageantry is the only example of these things, first and foremost. And let's celebrate the fact that there also historically has not necessarily been a place like pageantry for women to come together and celebrate all of these different aspects of themselves, feel good about themselves on the outside and the inside. That is not old school. And so let's not attack pageantry in general because it has historically been old school for women's history. But let's celebrate the fact that, I mean, if you look around, there are a few other institutions, sororities. Those are also very old school, but that's also a place where women can come together and interact and network. Like, let's focus on the fact that had these things not been in place in this day and age, what would we do? Where would women go for these kinds of connections and networking and ultimately just fun? Like, oh my God, let me have fun.
I also think it's important to acknowledge that just because we're saying that the system isn't necessarily old school doesn't mean that it doesn't have a long way to go. There's
Absolutely.
so much that the pageant industry can be doing to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion and make sure that we are continuing to drive the needle forward in opportunities for women to excel, for equity, and really across all intersecting inequalities that we see worldwide.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir. I try to do that as a journalist, and there's been a lot of work behind the scenes post Miss America as the Miss Wisconsin title holder to try and be more inclusive to our women as much as I can in Wisconsin. So hopefully you all will see some changes soon that are going to be beneficial to those who historically feel left out. Because yes, I have to acknowledge that as a woman of color, as a child of an immigrant, absolutely. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And that also is to say with a lot of other institutions. That was a long-winded answer. We're really good at long-winded answers.
What do you mean? We don't talk that much. Couple of chatty Cathy's over here. All right, next.
Okay. What did your Miss Wisconsin prep look like? How much did you practice a day?
This question comes from our friend Allison Wazinski here in Wisconsin, prepping for Miss Wisconsin as well. My Miss Wisconsin prep looked like a good balance between practicing my talent, which was dance. I did a lyrical dance on point to Hallelujah. And so it was a lot of that. For me, I was still competing in swimsuit. So fitness and nutrition was really essential. Plus walking practice, especially early on until honestly, you guys, probably the last couple of years of competing, I really didn't do a whole lot of walking practice because at that point it was just muscle memory and I just did it for fun. Um, and let's see, mock interviews, except for the last couple of years, my directors were pretty adamant that I not do too many mock interviews because you can over practice, you can over prep and become, as they say, pageant patty and sound rehearsed and inauthentic. And I wanted to avoid that. So, I, you know, it, how much did I practice a day? I started to look at my preparation as anything that I'm doing in my life right now is preparing me for the job. And that's what I tell my clients too. I was in school, I was working multiple jobs, I was doing my platform work. I was trying to have a life and be social outside of that. I was trying to work on myself and just my own self development. So, I mean, it was like a daily doing the basic things I needed to do to just stay well, like the fitness and the nutrition and the mindset work and staying up to date on what in the world was going on in the world. But as far as like the other practice, I didn't want to over rehearse and I didn't want to burn myself out. So I don't know. Does that answer the question?
I think so because the thing is like to answer this question, I want to be like how much do you actually have to prep for pageants, but that I mean, you do have to prep a lot when it comes to like the work that you put in. But the work that you're putting into yourself, I guess I want to say, should not be because you're competing. Like your fitness goals should not be because you're competing. It should be because you want to feel good and because you want to get stronger. Your let's see, your initiative goals should not be because it looks good on paper because you're competing. It should be because you're passionate about what you're talking about and you naturally just want to make appearances or talk at events, right? Like that should just be a part of who you are. So I guess like structured meeting with people to practice specific skills leading up to Miss Wisconsin, I would say like 2 hours a week, 2 to 3 hours a week max. Because yeah, like you said, I was working a full-time job, a part-time job, and then going to school part-time. And this was after I had quit a full-time job while working another full-time job. Like there wasn't any time to be like, how many hours a day do I got? It's like if I had 20 minutes before I went to bed, I would run through my talent a few times. Cool. That was my prep for the day. I did always try to be thinking about it in some capacity or another pretty much daily. And that didn't mean like run through everything like it's a show every single day, but it was like, okay, I had my piano practice today. Like that was good prep for the day. Or I listened to a podcast on current events during the last week, and that was my prep for the day if I couldn't get anything else in. If I had a mock interview, I wouldn't go directly into hours of walking and then also like studying flashcards. Like it just if I was spending more than like an hour a day on it, it was way too much. So, like, there's a common misconception that the prep takes a lot of work. And it does say for Miss America because you want to be at a certain level and you're getting a lot of different things put into place. But like prep itself for a pageant, mm, it's tough because none of it is actually like it's not like basketball practice. Like, I don't know how else to say it. You're not going to practices every single day of the week and like conditioning your body or it's like what can I do to better myself 1% each day? And you should be doing that anyways as a human being, but you just kind of amplify that with the skills that you want to showcase through competition. Like, I don't know how to answer this because it's like, well,
I know. Yeah, I'm struggling to answer this question too because every person is going to look a little bit different. And now Allison's asking us specifically what we did, like what our preparation looked like and how much we practiced every single day. And I guess I'm saying I didn't practice every single day. I did different activities every day to just maintain, but it wasn't like I was practicing every day and it wasn't like I was prepping every day. And actually, I I made Lila as her coach take a week off from prep and go do things outside of Miss Wisconsin stuff because otherwise you burn out. There is such a thing as too much. It should be fun. It's not your life. So I guess my advice to anyone that is preparing for a competition is you got to do a deep analysis of where you're at. What skills do you have? Where are you maybe lacking? What do you need to do to, improve skills in that area? Right. For me, like I said, I was told no more interview practice for you or you're going to be too practiced, too rehearsed. So then, I didn't do that. And like oftentimes I think too, we feel like we're not doing enough and that's just a limiting belief. And sometimes it's true. And then you got to do more. Like you just got to assess where you're at.
I always felt that it was helpful when I wouldn't know where to go. Like we always talk about how you are the GPS or we are the GPS and the competitor is going to take the drive, but we can kind of navigate where we're going. That's, I mean, I followed the people that I trusted. I couldn't recognize when I needed a week-long break because to me it was just like, go, 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 do as much as you can. So having somebody in your corner that's like, hey, take a break, go out with your friends. You forced me to go out with my friends multiple times.
I
And so
did. Isn't that weird to say? Ugh, my coach is making me go out with my friends.
but yeah, having that GPS and find somebody that you trust. Doesn't have to be a coach. Sometimes moms can be really good at this. Sometimes significant others can be really good at this. But for me, it was you. For me, I trusted that you could help navigate where I should be going next or doing more of or doing less of. And so honestly, I depended on a lot of people to tell me kind of where I was going. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think one thing I really want to emphasize on that too, though, is don't depend on everyone. Too many cooks in the kitchen is a thing.
Yeah.
Like have your circle of support and rely on that. And also like please don't be afraid to be introspective. Like truly do a deep dive of like what do you need to work on? What can you improve? And ask for feedback on that and then seek the help.
I want to clarify by a lot of people, I meant like three,
I know.
maybe four, but
Yeah.
to the listener, I don't mean 25 people. No, 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 no. I think three or four max is it.
It is a pet peeve of mine as a coach when I see girls asking for advice from multiple people and they're asking the same question, the same advice from multiple people. It's too much to sift and sort, you guys. You don't need that. I heard something today that I thought was really interesting and helpful. Like, don't ask for advice from people that haven't been where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. We could talk a whole episode about this.
We could, but let's move on to the next question.
Next one, which I think is kind of fun, and I'm gonna rephrase it a little bit. This is from Glow. She is a sweeps, one of the co-directors, I guess you could say. But what is the first thing you plan to do after giving up the crown? But I want to ask you, Ray, what was the first thing you did when you finished Miss Wisconsin 2014?
I was fortunate enough to land a job that actually started a couple of weeks before I gave up my title. So I was working full time already by the time that I gave up my title. I was working as a community relations manager for a food bank here in Milwaukee. So that whole idea and concept of getting into nonprofit development when I was done, I think if you've heard, me talk about this in previous podcasts, I talk about like freaking out, not knowing what in the world I was going to do after Miss Wisconsin because I was fresh out of college when I won and didn't have any like on the job experience. Um, and so when I landed this job, and it was actually through Miss Wisconsin appearances that I made connections and networked with the leadership within this nonprofit organization. And so I started working. Actually, it was a temporary position that turned into a full-time, long-term position for me. So that's what I did. After I gave up the crown. And I will say that I also took a big hiatus from the pageant world when I gave up my title. To which like I feel kind of badly because I wasn't really there for the new Miss Wisconsin as much as like in hindsight I kind of wish I would have been. But where I was at in my journey, I was burnt out and I needed to just figure out who I was outside of pageantry and dive into my career. So that was what I did after I was done. What are your plans, Lila?
It's funny because you went very business serious with your answer, like super professional, top notch. I was gonna say I want to sleep for a week straight. Like
Mm.
lock me in a room, turn off my phone. I kid you not. And I was joking with the Miss America girls because a lot of us are giving up our titles soon. And we have this group chat with all of the girls and we're telling each other when our dates are. And somebody asked recently, like, what's everyone gonna do when we're done? Like serious or unserious? What are you guys gonna do? And I think my text message was like, I'm gonna rent a cabin in the woods. I'm going to throw my phone away and I'm going to zen out monk style for 30 days. And I'm probably going to take myself up on that to some extent. But like in all seriousness, I want to clear my head. I want to clear my life. I want to simplify my life. And ultimately, long-term goals, I so desperately want to give back. And I so desperately want to be a place that women can feel heard and connected. And I'm already doing a lot of work to try and create change, not just within the organization, but within the culture of the organization and just pageantry as a whole, right? Like this platform with this podcast has been awesome to be able to do that. But long term, I want to change stigmas. I want to give back in a way that I wish I had. That is my ultimate goal after all of this, because all of these 11 years of competing, I've gone through ups and downs. I can question what I've done with it or what I've learned from it. But what I know is that I have a lot of resources and knowledge to be able to give back. So that is my long-term goal. But yeah, short term, lock me in a room with pizza and wine, and I'm gonna sleep for a week.
Done.
Okay,
Mhm.
let's round out. And I wanted to save this question for last, actually. This is from our current myth.
Okay, Daffy Duck.
This is from our current Miss South Central's teen in Wisconsin. How can you stay authentic and true to yourself as a title holder? Loaded question. Step one, know yourself. Who are you as a title holder? Why are you unique?
Step two, understand that there are going to be ups and downs and allow yourself to grow and change through your experiences.
And step three, always focus on your bigger picture.
Absolutely. What's your why? What is your intention? Set an intention that is greater than yourself, bigger than yourself. Follow that intention. Use that as your guide. And there's so many other things. I think, you hear stay true to yourself, do what's best for you. And it's difficult to do that when you are essentially working for a larger organization that may have ideas for you in, how you dress, how you look, what you like, the activities that you do, how you prepare for the next level of competition. And so oftentimes we hear of like conflict arising then between a title holder and the volunteers or the leadership that they're working with within the organization, because there's just a conflict of a disagreement or dislike of what the ideas are. And to that, I would say you can still be authentic and true to yourself and respectful and kind and appreciative of the people that you are working with. And don't compromise who you are and what your values are based on, trying to make somebody else happy or trying to make other people like you. But it's okay to try something new when someone's suggesting something to you as well. Like, look at the intentions of the volunteers and the directors of the organization that you are representing. And usually their intentions are to help you succeed. So not getting offended or frustrated when someone is suggesting or strongly encouraging you to do something different or wear something different, because their intention is good.
I like that you said taking advice, because I think that we can grow into better versions of ourselves through a lot of that advice. And it goes back to what Maddie was saying in our episode with her, Miss America, current Miss America, talking about how if it is advice about like core values of who you are as a person, the way that you grew up, what you've experienced, why you are the way that you are, don't listen to any of that, right? That is stuff that is unhelpful, the stuff that is the core being of who you are. I've gotten a lot of flack this year for family structures, for my background, maybe my ethnicity, my race, right? And that translates into then things of what I'm wearing and XYZ. Those are the things that if it's going to be damaging to a core part of who you are, we don't need to be listening to that. But when it's somebody that is giving you advice for bettering yourself through competition, becoming a better version of yourself, that's a whole different aspect. But being able to sift through that and having the skills to be able to sift through that is going to be the biggest tool that you're going to have in staying true to yourself. Sometimes I have to think about what I just said and if it made sense, but I think that made sense.
It did make sense.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. It's kind of loaded to tell someone, just be you, be true to yourself, stay authentic, if you're struggling to really know what that means for yourself. So it all goes back to doing that deep dive into what are your qualities? What makes you you? What do you value? What are your morals? What are the defining characteristics of who you are? Kind of just knowing your roots, and then also allowing yourself to change and grow through what you're experiencing.
Thank you for submitting these questions. If there's anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to hear, please DM us. We are so open to your feedback and what's going to be helpful for you all. So this is one way that we can kind of gauge where you guys are all at, but let us know if there's something that you're not hearing, because I know as a competitor, there are times where I so desperately wanted advice in a certain aspect. And honestly, there's not a ton of public resources like this that are giving us that as pageant girls. So let us know. And we want to be helpful to you. So thank you. This was a fun episode.
It was. Thanks, everyone. We will talk with you next time. Until then, be well, take care of yourselves, and just keep being a rock star trying to change the world.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. If you aspire to be as confident and accomplished as the women we talk to on this show, then this exclusive opportunity is tailor-made for you. I'm offering a complimentary Fearlessly Authentic coaching consultation designed specifically for women like yourself. Have you ever compared yourself to others or worried you're not good enough? Do you get nervous about public speaking and always second guess the things you've said? I've been there myself and have helped countless women conquer their private interview and onstage question, feel confident on and off stage, showcase their authenticity, and purpose and ultimately win the title of their dreams. In the Fearlessly Authentic coaching program, you will develop award-winning interview skills, transform your platform, become a public speaking expert, overcome self-doubt, comparison, and imposter syndrome, and be 100% prepared to not only win, but to succeed with your dream title, whether that's local, state, national, or even global. Don't let doubt or hesitation hold you back any longer. Take the first step toward your success and sign up for your complimentary, no obligation coaching consultation today. Simply visit fearlesslyauthenticcoach.com/consultation and reserve your spot. Remember, your journey to greatness begins with a single decision. Join the ranks of empowered women who dare to be fearlessly authentic. Thank you so much for listening, and here's to the confident, unstoppable